Can I call the committee to order, please? Thank you. A warm welcome for those attending and our viewers watching live on the Council YouTube channel in Hillingdon, London. My name is Councillor Higgins and I am the chairman of this meeting. Details of business to be considered today are shown on the agenda, copies of which are accessible in the room and online under this live broadcast. For those present in the room and attending to speak, please note that you are being filmed and any statement you make will be recorded and made public. A reminder to anyone speaking today that your voice will only be audible online if the microphone is switched on. We're not expecting a fire alarm, so if it does go off, please follow officers out of the building. Mobiles and tablet devices, can you please switch them off? Obviously, you can see that the committee will be using ours for our reports. Attendees today is Councillor Alan Bedham, my Vice Chairman. Welcome. Councillor Roy Chandel. Councillor Philip Cawthorne in place of Councillor Darren Davis. Councillor Elizabeth Garlick. Welcome. Councillor Singh and Councillor Mann. Welcome both. Officers present are Ross Johnson, Head of Development Management and Building Control. Wow. Kate Crosby, Area Planning Service Manager North. Chris Beatty, Planning Team Leader. Owen Concannon, Planning Team Leader. Welcome, second meeting. Got it right this time, didn't I? There you go. Alan Tilley, well, it's actually Dr. Alan Tilley. I'm surprised the doctor's been dropped off here. Transport and Aviation Team Manager. Welcome. Jimmy Walsh and Natalie Fairclough, Legal Advisors. I need two of them, obviously, for some reason. And Anisha Tej, my Democrat Service, absolutely wonderful person, and will keep me in order today. We'll go through first Chairman's announcements. Apologies for absence.
Apologies from Councillor Davis with Councillor Cawthorne substituting.
Declaration of interest matters coming before this meeting. Anybody? No? Thank you very much. Received the minutes of the previous meeting. I believe, Councillor Bennett, you have something to say on that one.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's on page 1. I'm not on the list as being present, but I was.
Definitely. Remember
I'm
you
mentioned
well.
in them, but not on the list.
Yeah, that's it. There's no matters have been notified in advance or urgent. And last, confirm that all items of business are marked 1. We've got nothing in part 2, so everything will be made public. Okay, so we have 3 petition items this evening. The first one is Willow Tree Marina, Yedding. Chris, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Item 6 relates to the Willow Tree Marina site in Westquay Drive, Hayes. Before starting the presentation, I would like to draw members' attention to the addendum on this item. The addendum provides a consultation update from the Canals and Rivers Trust, who within their comments raised 3 points relating to the potential impact of the development upon the canal, drainage and biodiversity. These points have been addressed through the suggestion to impose a construction environmental management plan condition, an amendment to the condition for which for the drainage condition to capture further drainage details and ensure SUDS measures are used where appropriate, and the amendment to condition 12, which is the lighting condition. It should also be noted that all of these conditions have been amended through the addendum so that they are discharged in consultation with the CRT. I would also like to provide a verbal update upon some of those conditions. In terms of condition 4, it is suggested that via the addendum to incorporate the request for additional drainage details from the CRT be slightly tweaked to include the wording of point VI on condition 4 on page 15 of the report pack. This refers to more specific water efficiency standards. In terms of parking, it is noted that there should be an update to the REV number in condition 6 on page 17 of the report pack, which refers to REV A, but it should be REV B. Thank you. The proposal seeks permission for the conversion of the first floor and loft space to create 3 times 2 2-bed and 1 times 1 bed flats with a ground floor extension for the relocation of the existing chandlery. Here you have the location plan with the site marked in pink. The application site is located at the end of West Quay Drive, as shown on the constraints plan. The site is entirely located within the greenbelt. The site accommodates the part single-storey, part two-storey marina building and is bounded by the canal and associated moorings. The building itself is currently used as a restaurant, chandlery and nursery. I will take you through the plans. Here we have the existing elevations. Here we have the existing floor plans. These are the existing floor plans with the uses which I mentioned a moment ago denoted in different colours. The red indicates the restaurant, the green indicates the nursery, the blue indicates the communal showers, the turquoise colour indicates the chandlery, and there is a plant room at first floor level denoted in purple. Here we have the proposed elevations and the proposed floor plans. Okay, it is proposed to allocate 6 of the existing car parking spaces to the residential units as it's indicated on this proposed site plan. You'll note the spaces are marked here within the car park. Again, here is a site plan indicating the arrangement of the car park. Those 6 spaces are marked here. Here we have an aerial view. The site is marked in a red edge. This is an existing side elevation view of the main building from the access road. The front elevation of the main building, the nursery, chandlery and the restaurant. Here is an image of the car park, a view towards the marina moorings, further view towards the marina mooring. Here is a view towards the southern end of the site, a view towards the northern end of the site, and a plan indicating the distance between the marina building and the nature reserve to the north. In terms of the assessment of the proposal, the development proposes a modest set of extensions which would not be considered disproportionate to the existing building. Furthermore, the infill nature of the extensions would also constitute the limited infilling of previously developed land. As such, the proposal is considered to meet exception C and G of paragraph 154 of the NPPF and therefore proposes appropriate development within the greenbelt. As such, no very special circumstances are required, and the modest nature of the extensions is considered appropriate and preserves the openness of the greenbelt. In terms of the design of the extensions, revised plans were sought during the processing of the application to secure a reduction in the scale of the dormer. As set out within the committee report, the additions are considered to be subservient and integrate with the design of the host building and the surrounding context. Regarding neighbour impact, the proposed residential units would not feature windows or balconies which would offer direct views towards neighbouring habitable room windows within a 21-metre distance. As such, the proposal is considered to protect the residential amenities of neighbouring residents in terms of overlooking, outlook and overshadowing. In terms of highway impact, access to the development would be provided off West Quay Drive. The existing car park benefits from 63 car parking spaces. 18 spaces are allocated to the commercial users and 12 to the residential moorings. This leaves 33 spaces which are currently unallocated. 6 of these spaces would be allocated for the new residential units, which is consistent with the London Plan standards. The remaining 27 spaces would remain unallocated. As stated within the addendum, the CRT have been consulted and raised no objection to the proposal, subject to conditions pertaining to the submission of further drainage, lighting and construction management details. If minded to agree with the officer's recommendation, the subsequent discharge of these conditions would be undertaken in consultation with the CRT. Subject to these conditions, the proposal would not result in detrimental harm upon the canal, local ecology, as supported within the applicant's ecological impact assessment. Finally, the proposed plans indicate adequate levels of living accommodation would be provided whilst retaining the internal floor space and functionality of the commercial uses on site. It is noted that the proposal would not provide adequate levels of external amenity space to serve the units, but this would be offset by the vast amount of public open space within walking distance to the site. In summary, the proposal constitutes appropriate development within the Greenbelt, would integrate with the surrounding context and existing host building, whilst retaining adequate levels of privacy for neighbouring residents. The proposal would also not give rise to detrimental harm upon the local highway network or local ecology, including the adjacent canal. It is for these reasons and those set out in more detail within the committee report that the application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chris. Very thorough as usual. Brilliant. First petitioner is Mr. Angus. Is anybody Mr. Angus not here? Okay. So he's not here. And then we have the agent, Mark Alloway. Yes. Would you like to come forward, sir? And take a seat. You have 5 minutes. It is indicated by the traffic light system. Green is for 4, amber is your last minute, and red, I will stop you, because that's what it means, stop. So we'll start as soon as you press the button in front of you on the microphone, whenever you're ready.
Dear members of the committee, thank you for allowing me to speak here tonight. My name is Mark Alloway, and I represent the owner and applicant, Sorbonne Estates. The application that is before you tonight has been reviewed by your case officer and his team leader, who have worked with us throughout the application process to achieve a well-considered proposal, which you will see from their detailed report is recommended for approval. The proposal is for a modest roof extension to accommodate 4 flats within underutilised office accommodation and within the existing roof space. The new dormer windows face away from the surrounding residential properties and create a pleasant aspect overlooking the marina. The case officer's reports conclude that the proposed development, including the introduction of balconies and roof lights, has been designed to ensure that the surrounding residents are not unduly harmed in terms of loss of daylight, sunlight, overlooking, or loss of privacy. The relocation of the chandlery to a small ground floor extension of 70 square metres will not extend beyond the existing building line, and the scale of the entire extension is modest, representing an increase in built form of only 17%, and it is considered that the development will integrate well within the residential and marina setting. We note there are no highways objections to the proposal, as the marina is served by a large car park. The new flats will benefit from their close proximity to the Willow Tree open space and the nearby retail facilities centred around the large Tesco supermarket. National planning guidelines and the local plan state a requirement to encourage effective use of land and encourage the use of previously developed and underutilised sites to maximise potential, in particular for new housing, and should proactively support well-designed homes on small sites. The subject property has previously received consent for conversion to residential use. Finally, the site sits outside the boundary of the nearby nature conservation site. The Marina Basin already has 38 residential properties constructed around it, creating a mixed commercial and residential setting. We believe that this proposal accords well with both national and local planning policy, and I therefore ask you, in line with the officer's recommendation, to grant approval of this planning application. Thank you.
Thank you. That's very good. Before you leave, does any councillors wish to have a question to you? No? Thank you very much, sir. You may take your seat. Can you turn the microphone off for me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Right. So, we'll go out to... Who's going to take me away? Anybody? Councillor Bennett? Councillor Corkle?
So I just wanted to ask, actually, there was a petition on this item as is in the report.
Yes, unfortunately.
The petitioner isn't here
No.
to speak. No, I will defer to the other speakers.
Okay. Councillor Corkle.
Thank you. A couple of questions from me, really. The report states that there's no need to demonstrate very special circumstances because the exceptions within the MPFF apply in this set of circumstances, but my understanding of the MPFF and that particular paragraph mean that they only apply if there's no wider impact on the green belts. That's my understanding of it. So a couple of questions in relation to that, just following on from that. So can we just be reminded of the elevations now compared with what we will see if this is approved? Because I just want to be clear, are we talking about a taller building or are we talking about a building on the same footprint? Let me just understand the difference, please, more fully. And forgive me if everyone else understands that, but I missed it, that's all.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Essentially, there is no raising of the actual ridge line. There is 2 small dormers proposed here. There is an amendment to a gabled form of roof, which is noted within the report. If I just take you back through the existing elevations, you'll note that there is a gabled roof form here. This actually sits in between 2 sections within the, I'll show you, it actually sits in line within this middle section. So that roof form there doesn't actually protrude above or beyond the existing building lines. So effectively there are small infill extensions which would not be considered to have a greater impact upon openness. There is an extension at ground floor level which is here, but again that would be single storey. It would not be considered to have any reduction really on openness at all, and that's why we consider it to comply with the exceptions.
I did have another one, but I'll defer to other speakers first if you wish.
No, it's fine.
I'll carry on. Okay. My second question relates to parking, and the report says that the current parking arrangements have been supplied to officers to assess as part of the application. I just wanted to ask, is this subject to any form of independent scrutiny or oversight by officers? Because it would be surprising if the applicant said there would be a problem with parking. So are we looking at that in some detail, or do we take it as read, what's given to us?
I can answer that, but I'll let you do it, Chris. Go on.
No,
No.
I was actually going to refer to Alan, but I'll kind of briefly touch on it. So initially the application wasn't supported by a transport assessment of any kind. We did note that we did feel that the parking element would need to be addressed. I think we do need to consider that the application site is based on a car park, so the existing building is based within a car park, which we do understand is underutilised. The proposal does provide 6 car parking spaces for what could be occupied, for a development which could only be occupied by probably a maximum of 7 people. So the parking figure is considered to be compliant. The information that's been given to us does indicate that the car park is not only underutilised, but there is also an over-provision of car parking for the current uses in accordance with the London plan. If we were assessing all of the uses as a whole, as one brand new application, we do need to remind committee members that we are only reviewing an application for 6 new residential units and a relocation of the Chandlery, not an increase in those uses.
Okay.
Chair.
Is that clear enough?
We're taking it as read then. I'm taking that answer to be, but
Well,
no, that's fine. If that's the way it has to be, then that's fine.
Yeah,
I'll just asking questions.
Ros will come in too.
Yeah, just like clarification that it is 4 additional units. I think just fair to say that on this one we have given the parking really detailed consideration, and we haven't gone out to sort of an independent scrutiny, but that I wouldn't consider that was necessary or proportionate on an application of this scale. But we have consulted with our highways department, so Alan may have some comments, as I know also that he has given it a lot of scrutiny and has visited the site as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, as Ros mentioned, I have visited the site, and I've understood from information received from the applicant how car parking is provided. You've got car parking for the residential moorings. You've then got car parking for people who moor boats at the marina, and then the balance then is called commercial parking that's used by the restaurant and bar, the Chandlery, and the nursery, though the nursery is currently vacant. The 6 car parking spaces will take away 6 spaces from the commercial use, which is currently 33 spaces. However, because the chandlery reduces in size, the net loss is 4 spaces, and I'm quite satisfied that there will be sufficient car parking to cater for all uses at the site. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Chandel.
Thank you, Chairman. I think the valid points about the parking, especially where it seems strange that if you've got too many parking, it goes against policy. But
those are the days.
Yeah, green belt. We should say no straight away. Now we don't. I can't see any harm there, and that's the key driver for me. So I'm happy to go with officer's recommendation.
Thank you. So I have a proposer. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Chair. I know that area very well, actually. My question was the parking lot. Dr. Allen Telly, he already explained, so I'm second. I've got it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Singh. So we are being proposed and seconded. Can I show of hands those in favour of this officer's recommendation? It's unanimous. Okay, so we move on to the next item, which is item 7, which is 34, 36, 38 Green Lane. Is that you? Chris. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Item 7 on the agenda is an application for the amalgamation of 36 and 38 Green Lane to form a larger retail unit on the ground floor and a partial demolition of the ground floor space to the rear of the units to enable the erection of a single-storey workshop building. A new external staircase is also proposed to the retained upper floor residential units. There are no proposed changes to the shop fronts as part of the application, and I'll explain why that is relevant later. I'll just take members through the presentation. Just to be clear, there is no addendum items on this particular item. Here we have a location plan with the site denoted in pink. Here we have a constraints plan. The application site does fall within the primary shopping area, which is indicated in blue. Here we have the application site and the units which are proposed outlined in red. The wider site ownership is indicated in blue. Here we have an existing site plan. The proposed block plan indicates where that workshop would be located to the rear of the retail units. Here is a closer view of the proposed site plan. Again, the workshop here is indicated in orange. Here we have an existing ground floor plan. Each of the units is marked in a different colour. An existing first floor plan which shows those residential units above. An existing second floor plan. Here are the north elevations with the proposed, the application units marked here. Existing east elevation, so this is a view from the side. Existing west elevations, this is a view from the opposite side. Here we have an existing south elevation. Existing roof plan. Here we have the proposed north elevations, which do demonstrate that there are no works to the shop front proposed. Proposed ground floor plans. A proposed first floor plan. Proposed second floor plan. Here is a set of elevations indicating the construction of the proposed workshop. Here is the workshop in context. This is the proposed east elevation. The same for the proposed south elevation. Proposed roof plan. Here we have existing site plan. proposed site plan, which does give you an indication of the development that's due to take place. Here we have a bird's eye view with the site marked in red. Existing site photos with the frontages on the left. Here is the existing rear photo. A photo facing the back of the premises with the staircase on the right hand side. A closer view of the staircase and the rear of the properties. Further photo just of the rear in context. Closer image of the rear elevation. Here is the site access route, which is to the west of the westernmost retail unit. Okay. Members may recall that a similar application was brought before them last year on the same site for the same proposal. That application was refused with a single reason for refusal based on the harm that it would cause to the conservation area due to the changes proposed to the shop fronts of numbers 34, 36 and 38 Green Lane, and due to the box form of design of the proposed workshop. The current application is essentially a resubmission of the same scheme. However, there are now no changes proposed to the shop fronts and a pitched roof has been added to the workshop. The Council's Conservation Officer has reviewed the current proposals and confirmed that the previous reason for refusal has now been resolved, and as such the application is now deemed to be acceptable. 6 comments objecting to the proposals have been received and a petition in objection carrying 66 signatures. The concerns raised relate on the whole to the impact of the proposed internal changes to the retail units and the loss of the retail floor space. As members will have seen from the officer report, whilst there is a clear intent to avoid the loss of retail units within the designated town centres and shopping parades, there is no actual policy against the loss of retail floor space, net or otherwise, in a town centre. There is also no policy direction against shop amalgamation. The 3 existing retail units have internal floor spaces of 115 metres squared, 138 metres squared and 73 metres squared, with depths of around 25 metres. The proposal involves the demolition of the rear parts of the buildings and internal walls between 36 and 38 Green Lane to allow the amalgamation of the 2 units. It results in 2 retail units of 66 metres squared and 131 metres squared. This would result in a net loss of 129 metres squared in total floor space terms. There would not be any loss in retail frontage as the result of the proposal. It is worth noting to members that no objection was raised by the Council's policy team to the proposed internal changes to the retail units as part of the previous or current application, and the loss of the retail floor space was not listed as a reason for refusal for the previous application. The highway arrangements which were previously proposed and remain the same, and these were considered to be acceptable. As such, the application is recommended for approval. There are no addendum matters. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chris. I better not call you Trevor. Mr. Sterling, would you like to come to the table? You know that you've been here long enough. I don't need to tell you. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, I am Trevor Shirling and I sit on the Northwood Residents Association Committee dealing particularly with planning matters. This evening I'm speaking on behalf of the lead petitioner. We at the NRA are of the firm view that this proposal does not enhance the retail offering in Green Lane and damages the heritage asset, and so planning consent should be refused. This parade of shops is known as the Pavement. In the conservation area appraisal in 2019, it is stated specifically the Pavement was the first section of shops to be completed, and that was over 100 years ago. As well as being the first shops, it is within the Northwood conservation area, and as such needs to be protected. The proposal is for the retail space to be pretty much halved in depth in the primary retail area of Northwood, to be replaced by a workshop which in our view is out of character with the remainder of the property, and whilst the same use class, it won't be a shop. Under policy DMHB1 regarding heritage assets, it states, first of all, the council will expect development proposals to avoid harm to the historic environment. Development that has an effect on heritage assets will only be supported where, and then there's a series of items. First, it sustains and enhances the significance of the heritage asset and puts them into viable uses consistent with their conservation. Well, in our view, a workshop does not. Secondly, it will not lead to a loss of significance or harm to an asset. In our view, the harm being proposed here outweighs any minimal public benefit. Thirdly, it makes a positive contribution to the local character and distinctiveness of the area. This doesn't. Any extensions or alterations are designed in sympathy without detracting from or competing with the heritage asset. This is not sympathetic to the heritage asset. It therefore, in our view, fails on every count. The proposed workshop is an infill appearance on backland. Whilst some changes have been made to the shop frontage, the application is still substantially the same as the application previously refused. When the application was refused last time, consideration was given to whether fire engines could get to the rear of the property. Measurements were taken from plans during the meeting. However, as you saw on that photograph, there are two very different levels of the passageway, as well as downpipes that reduce the width. It is really questionable whether fire engines can get down the passageway to the rear, yet the use would be intensified. One further detail relates to 34 Green Lane, which currently is one of the few businesses that provides a DDA-approved toilet facility for its clients, and is able to do so due to the depth of the current unit. Depth of shops is important, as well as width. Whilst not specifically a planning matter, it would lead to the loss of 3 long-established businesses that have met the needs of the local community well. The planning officer has highlighted that the overall development results in the loss of 129 square metres of retail space. Whilst looking at potential future applications may well be outside the scope of considerations, policy DMTC1 regarding town centres says that cumulative impact is to be considered. And we are of the view that as the applicant owns the rest of the parade of 24 to 38 Green Lane, what should be taken into consideration is the prospect of more applications on the same parade, and so this would be the start of the adverse cumulative impact on the retail offering in Green Lane, and in particular this part of the conservation area. We therefore believe that the public benefit, if any, of the proposal does not outweigh the harm to this part of the conservation area. So the property falls within the conservation area, and this property, being part of the pavement, was the first shopping in Northwood. We are of the view that this proposal is not sympathetic to the local character of the conservation area into which it falls and will detract from the heritage asset. We believe it deserves to be protected and look to the council to provide that protection. After all, there is no going back if consent is granted. For these reasons, we at the NRA request that planning permission is refused. Thank you.
Thank you, Trevor. Any questions? Yes, Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your petition. On the conservation area piece, so is residents' objections more around the workshop's visible damage and that not in keeping with the conservation area, or the internal amalgamation of the two properties?
I'm sorry. Here it is a question of width versus depth for retail, and lots of retailers like depth because, as you probably know, they are valued at different amounts as you go further back into the shop, and some uses can sit at the back of the shop rather than the front. So actually, so far as the retailer is concerned, they like depth, not just width. Here as well, an additional workshop in a conservation area, in a retail area, is felt to be out of place. You know, it's a shopping area. Let's keep it as as shops, and we have already in there 3 shops that have served the community really well, and we would like them to continue to serve the community.
Councillor Coulson.
Mr. Shilling, hello. Thank you for your petition. I want to just check I've understood something correctly that I think you said, namely that this application, were it to be approved, would result in the diminution of facilities within the shops that are there, and you mentioned specifically DDA compliant toilets. Am I right? Did I understand that correctly?
One particular shop, actually.
Do you have a microphone, please?
I'm really sorry. Yes, one of the shops has that for their clients. It's not public use, it's for their clients, and it's towards the back of the shop.
Councillor Bennett, I don't mind.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm not that familiar with Northwood, and other members of the committee may not be either. So when you said that it is a primary retail area, when we looked at the photographs, one of the units looked like it was a charity shop. Now, not to say that that isn't well used by the community or an asset, but it didn't strike me as whether that was necessarily prime retail area. So is this where all of the main shops in Northwood are, or is there another area where residents would generally go? I'm just looking at that photo, it didn't look to me like that was the key shopping area. And I suppose the point I'm trying to make is the presence of a charity shop in one of these premises may suggest that actually this is more towards the tail end and there is a challenge in getting long-term retailers in there. So help me understand a little bit more about Northwood and the retail around that area.
Okay, it is at the end of the Green Lane shopping, the bottom end. Beyond those shops to the right is the major shopping car park. So actually anyone parking there, not walking, would park at Green Lane. At the top end you have got the station and then some more shops beyond. It is not such a small shopping area, but what I think is interesting is compared to other local shopping areas, they just aren't voids. When you have it here, we've got the Barclays Bank, which now has planning permission for its extract, and the tenant is taking it on. We have no units that actually are not. There is one that's not occupied, but it is owned and we know will be occupied, and the whole of the rest of the shopping centre is actually occupied. Your point could be relevant in other areas where there might be 5 or 10 shops in a shopping area of this size which are empty. That is not the case in Northwood.
Thank you very much, Joe. You can sit down. Thank you. Okay. There's quite a lot there to go. So who's going to... Sorry, I got another one, haven't I? Sorry, is Jade Turner here? No? I didn't think there were. All right. Thank you. Yeah, Councillor Chandel.
Thank you, Chair. Something on what the petitioner raised about the cumulative effect. Now, in terms of policy, how does that actually affect this application? Because each application on its own merit. Now, that is a case of what if. But I believe that should hold some sort of weight. That's the first thing. And a couple of other points. It's a workshop at the back. Noise. What kind of hours of work are they thinking of? Because there's residential buildings on top. So those are 2 points that I would like some clarification on. Thank you.
Chris, was it?
Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. So starting with Councillor Chandel's question regarding how we would consider the cumulative impact in terms of retail. So it's a really good question, and it's an interesting topic that was raised by Mr. Sterling. So yeah, it's a difficult one because I think, for myself, our preference would be that we don't lose any retail space. But we've looked at this quite carefully in liaison with the policy team, and we just don't feel that there is the policy support there for us to have a sustainable refusal on that ground. In terms of the cumulative impact, I completely sort of understand what the argument being put forward there was regarding, and it's an interesting thought, but I think you sort of summed it up in terms of talking about considering each application on its merits. And if we're talking about this being the start of a cumulative impact, we're talking about things that haven't happened yet, which may happen, which may not, and that we would be able to sort of look at in terms of future applications if they were to come forward. So I just don't feel, although it's an important point, I just don't feel that we've got the grounds to refuse in regards to retail.
Thank you, Chair. Just on that point, I understand where you're coming from, and I think you are correct. But the point that the petitioner made, which hangs for me, is the owners of all those buildings, all 8, from 24 to 38, is the same landlord. For me, that makes it slightly a different case. If it was individual landlords, the chance of all 8 wanting to change, 0. I'm very keen on retail space for obvious reasons for myself, from where I come from. But having the same landlord for all 8 buildings, I think there should be some sort of special consideration. Because, like the HMOs in my ward, if anybody wants a HMO, it has to come before the planning committee. So, is there anything in those lines that should that landlord of all 8 buildings want to change something similar, whether we can add some sort of condition or something on those lines, possibly?
I know where you're going with this, and I do sympathise where you're going, but we have to be careful that we have to deal with the application in front of us. But it's a very good point. I know legal were jumping up me at that, but I'll let you go with it a little bit, and then we'll come back. We'll just pull it back a little bit now. Rosa, do you want to answer that question?
Yeah, I'll start, and then if legal would like to add anything further. Yeah, I suppose it's important to remember as well that in terms of land ownership, the ownership side is actually sort of separate from planning anyway, so we kind of need to bear that in mind. But I think there's just too many kind of what if. We don't know that the landlord has an intention to change any of the other units. It just wouldn't be a sound reason for refusal.
Okay. Councillor Bennett.
And about noise, sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, noise.
Yeah, so in terms of noise then, so what's key here is the proposed use of the workshop. So it is a use that in youth classes terms is considered appropriate in residential areas. So for that reason we haven't proposed any particular noise conditions. It is something that if you felt it was necessary you could potentially impose a condition, but I think the reason that we haven't done that is because that can then cause difficulties in terms of occupation of the building, because you might find that a potential user, those hours aren't appropriate, and then they'd have to make a new submission, and that may or may not be supported. So that was the reason we haven't. And as I say, the key thing here is that planning use class is considered acceptable in a residential area.
Okay, Councillor Cawthorne.
Thank you. I rather think we've lost the opportunity to talk about the loss of a retail unit since it wasn't identified as a reason of refusal last time round, nor indeed the cumulative impact. Although personally, and planning is a subjective thing, with due respect to you, Ros, and your officer team, I think where we're looking at this for the first time, I'd be up for an argument about it. I'm not sure that we can go there this evening. Regrettably, and I'll say that in front of Trevor, if I may, because it's important you understand what we can and can't do. And it would be quite something for us to overturn off of the recommendations on that basis. I do have a couple of questions, however. Now, observations have been made about the ability of a fire appliance and emergency vehicles to access this site, and I would like to understand more fully and offer a response to what's been said in the petition.
Yeah, Alan, can you verify that from last time?
Yes, thank you very much, Chairman. The Parade Shops was built in 1914, which predates the rise in car ownership and motor transport, and as such the access to the rear is only 3 metres wide. A fire appliance requires a width of 3.7 metres. So the guidance is a fire appliance must be able to pull up within 45 metres of the front door if it were a residential property, and we have measured the furthermost point on the site is 47 metres. these are only approximate measurements. So a fire appliance would be able to pull up on Green Lane. There are double yellow lines and zigzags for the zebra crossing. So we're confident that there would be no issues with a fire appliance accessing in the case of an emergency. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Causewell.
So the way I've read that response is the situation now is far from perfect. It's no worse and it is compliant. Than
And it wasn't. It was very difficult to have a reason for refusal on that basis.
I do have a second question. That was around. We were talking about facilities within existing shops and the diminution of that in the event that we were minded to approve this evening. Is that a consideration that's a legitimate one in this discussion?
Chris, you want to take? I can answer it.
Sorry, I was just going to ask for that question to be repeated because I got some of it. But
is it?
No. Go on.
No.
Everyday language.
No, it's fine. Don't go. You try again. I'll let you try
again. We were hearing about the possible loss of facilities and amenities within existing retail units as a result of this, were it to be approved. May I ask for an officer comment on that? Is that likely to happen? And were it to, would that be a consideration worthy of discussion this evening? Thank you.
Sorry, I'm going to come back with a question. When you say the loss of amenities, are you referring to the toilet space, which was...
No, the 100 square metres, the 100 metres,
right,
the 100 metres.
So the floor space itself.
Floor space,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, as set out in the committee report and in my presentation, it has been considered, but there is no policy basis for us to refuse the application on the loss of retail space within this location. As such, we could not form a reason for refusal for it. Therefore, it's to be accepted.
Okay, Councillor Bennett and then Councillor Gill.
Thank you, Chair. So, the opening line of the report, amalgamation of numbers 36 to 38 to form a larger and more coherent retail unit on the ground floor. So, whilst we're losing retail space, we're not losing retail as such.
That we don't know. That's the problem.
So my question is there a sort of use class that is applied to this in terms of it remaining retail?
Okay, I'm going to add on to your question.
Yeah.
Because it is something
that
I will build on it. Is there any way that we can't dictate what businesses are going to be there or anything like that, but is there any way that we can make sure that because this is over to you, Jimmy, really, because the landowner owns all of those properties, is there a way of us making sure that any application that comes before us, again for another property, these business premises have to be in occupants? Is there any way we can do that? I don't think it's out of our remit as a planning, Jim. In the sense, what I'm trying to say is that if, let's just say, those two units, he decided that the owners decided there's obviously a need for that. That's on that assumption. But say there isn't really a need for that, and it's just a way of, I don't know, rejigging the situation. Can we just make sure that those premises are occupied before any other internal changes for the other ones? I know I'm really reaching here, but I just want to know your opinion on that. Yeah, I know you're going to say no, but I want to ask you anyway.
Yeah, that's the no, I would say. We can't predetermine any future application in relation to it, so we'd have to invite it. And I have to repeat, I didn't repeat it, I didn't say it.
Didn't
say it the first time, that the owner owning the full of the parade is
irrelevant,
totally irrelevant, and should not be mentioned. Should not be mentioned. So I think it's more
my wrists have been firmly slapped.
No, sorry, but it's more of a use class issue rather than anything else.
Okay. Councillor Bennett.
So just to clarify, so where it says in the report that it is forming a larger, more coherent retail unit on the ground floor, it's not necessarily a retail unit, it's a unit. We don't know what it could be used for in the future.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no class of use class or protection.
There is a class, but
it's not one which affords protection for it being retail.
It'll be certain businesses can operate in that thing. That's the thing there. But Chris, you want to add something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, just on the point, I think what committee members may have been looking for is there something within the policy that requires the owner of the buildings to demonstrate in occupation for a period of time. Unlike other use classes, there isn't a requirement for any occupier, owner, of these retail units to do that. And just to be clear, the units themselves do have a use class, and the use class would remain the same. There isn't a change of use for those, but there is a change of use for the proportion that is to be lost, and that would be gained for a workshop.
Yes.
Yep.
So let's just clarify that. So the business so we're saying that the business that could occupy that area.
Yep.
Is not the change. The only real change is the internal changes are not something that really affects us as a planning.
No.
Okay, fine. Yeah, Councillor Bennett.
Just picking up on what Chris said, so that's a good point. So actually there are no, because the use class is the same, there is no increased risk in the combined unit not having retail versus today with the two, because it's the same, and hypothetically both of those shops could shut down. Hypothetically you might get a shop in the future. It's kind of irrelevant because the new class is the same.
But there's no way that if they wanted to change them into housing on a shop front, they would have to come back to committee.
Yeah, that would be an actual change of use. So the amalgamation of the units, if they were to change that into residential for some sort of reason, then yes, that would need to be assessed by planning officers for sure. And if it needed to go to planning committee within line with the constitution, then that would happen as well.
Okay, fine.
Yep.
Councillor Gerlich, sorry to keep you waiting.
Oh, thank you, Chair. So this is Class E, the workshop. As light industrial. So I need a clarification. Let's say if let's say a carpenter, is it carpenter workshop is considered as light industrial? Because that would certainly create noise and pollution.
Yeah. And
the other question I had, I think Dr. Tilley mentioned that it was built in 1940, and that just confirmed the date of the build. Because I've noticed that on the auctioneer's website they stated that those houses were built in 1900. So the secondary question is, are those buildings, houses that have historic value? They are not listed buildings, they are just of no sort of category.
Chris?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. I mean, just in terms of the date in which the properties were built, I don't think that's not specifically relevant to the application because they aren't listed buildings. They are the heritage asset here is actually the conservation area. So that rather than the buildings themselves sit within the conservation area, which is a heritage asset within itself. But the actual dating of the buildings isn't the significant part. It's the actual conservation area and its listing itself. So although Alan may have referred to the buildings being constructed within 1914, that isn't specifically relevant to the determination of the case.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Is there anything else? Yeah.
Regarding the type of business.
Yeah, I think that's where we should direct our finance. The rear, is it carpentry, a light commercial?
Yeah, so just to say, in terms of use classes, there's a whole huge gazetteer where they're all listed, which we haven't brought along with us today, but Class EG3, which is the one that we're talking about, is called industrial processes. I mean, it's light industrial processes, so it is the kind of thing that I would expect carpentry to sort of fall into, but it could be a whole range of other things as well, and we obviously don't know that, but it's important to note that it wouldn't be sort of heavy industrial processes that wouldn't obviously be suitable in a residential area.
Okay, I think the other question was from Councillor Goldman, if I may, is about the pollution. So say that he's a carpenter who's doing a lot of chip carvings and sawdust, it causes dust. So does the facility have to make sure that it has compliance to those requirements of filters and stuff?
So that's something that would sit outside of the planning system, so not something we could, give detailed advice on. So I think the key thing is we don't know exactly what use would be in there, so it wouldn't be appropriate to put particular controls in terms of talking about pollution. If there was heavy pollution, I think that would be unlikely that it would be an E-class use and more likely to be heavy industrial use falling under a different category. And there are separate legislations in place to control heavy pollution, for example environmental permitting scheme.
Thank you. Councillor Chandel.
Thank you, Chair. I think with what we've discussed, what we've heard from officers, our hands are tied to quite a lot of things on what we think should be part of the planning process, but it isn't. So on that mark, I would have to go with the officer's recommendation.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Chandel. Can I just pick up on the noise issue? We did have a conversation at the beginning of this about limiting work time in that workshop at the back. Can we put a condition on that or not?
I think you could if you felt it was absolutely necessary and that you felt that given the proximity to residential units, you felt that was necessary. We could look at that. We'd probably want to take that away and just give some consideration to what would be reasonable hours, and we could do that in consultation with yourself.
With myself, that's fine if the committee can go with that. Councillor Chandel?
Sorry, just on that point, Ross, I just want to make sure that you said what is reasonable hours, I'll say what is unreasonable hours. I wouldn't want a carpenter working there 3 o'clock in the morning and they've got kids in the flats up the top. I think 3 o'clock is unreasonable, but a chap who likes working 23 hours a day might think not.
I would agree that would be unreasonable as well, and if I pass the draft condition to the chairman, hopefully that will give some comfort.
So I'm proposed with that condition. Is everybody happy about that? Councillor Cawthorne, Councillor Bennett, you want something to add to it? Okay, Councillor Cawthorne first, and then I'll come to you.
Yes, I mean, I won't say I'm happy to second because I'm not, but I will because I think previous decision making, to which I personally was not party in, I don't know whether the last application went to committee, it was dealt with other delegations. But previous decision making, I'm afraid, has tied our hands, and it's important that Mr. Shirley understands that because I think we've given this a damn good going over this evening and challenged it to the fullest extent we can. But at the end of the day, if we refuse this, then the officer report will be the first thing the applicant takes to appeal, and it will be helpful to him. So I think there's only so much we can do. I do second the recommendation. Thank you with that.
Thank you. Councillor Bennett.
If I can just slip in, Chair, one last question, just around waste. So, and if we've got the workshop now at the back, wherever you get a parade of shops, you generally always get fly tipping, you get sort of waste littered behind the premises. Just with a workshop there that presumably is going to generate incremental waste, is there anything we can do to kind of firm up to make sure that that doesn't become an issue for residents?
Well caught. Chris?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to direct members to condition 7, which is on page 51, which states, prior to the occupation of the development, hereby approved, the applicant shall submit a refuse management plan to local planning authority for approval. So I believe that to be controlled already.
Yeah. So when that comes, can that come to me, Mr. Chairman, to look at it, please? Because we have a lot, at that moment at the time, we do have a lot of issues of fly tipping and waste down that area. Well caught, Councillor. Is that okay? Can it come to me? Is the committee happy for it to come to me? Yeah.
I think I'll have to refer to one of the legal officers. I don't know if we can discharge a condition in consultation with the chairman. It's not a request I've had before.
I think remember it's still officer's decision, so it's delegated, and so it's just consultation. I don't mean just, but it is consultation.
I know.
So as long as it's clear, it's still an officer's decision.
Yeah, happy to send it to you once we've got it. Yeah, no problem.
And if there's any, because obviously it has been raised as enforcement quite a few times in that area, so that's the reason I'm asking for it to come through.
No problem.
Okay. Okay, so we are proposed and seconded with those additional conditions, one of work time and the coming to me about the waste management. Can I have a show of hands, those in agree with officer's recommendation? That's one abstain. Against. There's against. So there we have against, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Unfortunately, for it. Thank you very much. So that's passed with those additional conditions. Is that okay, Tanisha?
Thank you.
Thank you, Trevor. Thank you. Right, so we go to the final petition item, which is 90 Long Lane. That's Owen.
Thank you, Chair. Right, the item number 8 seeks planning permission to demolish the existing detached single dwelling and the erection of a building consisting of 9 two-bedroom flats with associated parking and amenities. So if you can see on the site location plan, the site is located there in red. It's at the junction close to Swakesley Drive and Bridgeway. That's the site identified from the bird's eye view. And the constraints of the site is within Ickenham Village Conservation Area, and you can see a listed building part of the school there directly north of the site. So this is the existing block plan, and the existing floor plans. It currently contains a single family dwelling with suitable for 3+ bedrooms in size, also with associated garages to the side. And this is the elevations. So on the top left is the front elevation, the bottom left is the rear, and you have the 2 flank elevations on the top right and bottom right. So next slide is the proposed block plan, and then you have your proposed site and ground floor layout plan, which it shows 4 residential units on ground floor. On the right there is parking for 9 car spaces, and also you see at the back is cycle parking. And then at first floor you have 3 additional 2-bed units. So the first one here is facing the street, and that's flat 8, and then another one facing the rear guarding is flat 7 with 2 additional ones in the loft. The next slide then shows the roof plan, and we'll swiftly move on to the elevations. So the bottom left you see the proposed front elevation. I would highlight that there is a conversion at number 88, which is next door, which there has been an attempt to copy that design. And then the rear elevation is a kind of a barn style return. And if you see the 2 side elevations up top, you can see the extent of the scale of the development. So the 2 returns, it has a depth of 23.5 metres, 20 metres in width and 10 metres in height. So this gives you an idea of the street scene. You've up top you have the existing street scene, and then on the bottom image you have the proposed site in the centre. I suppose what I would take from this the committee would be the width and of that proposed development compared to number 88 and 92. Again, this is just sectional drawings which shows the floor to ceiling heights and the layouts. I've included this plan. It shows the removal of a number of trees to the front. So the trees are highlighted in red circles. Now these are a mixture of categories. There's 2 category U trees, and there are 2 Category B and 1 Category A trees. So they all kind of, well, apart from the Category U trees, the others would contribute to the character. So this is the site in aerial, and it's highlighted with an X. You have 88, and then you have 92 on the other side. And this proposed front elevation and the view of the street character from east of Long Lane. The neighbouring property at number 92 Long Lane. And this is the recently converted into approval in 2016 for 9 units, and that's at 88 Long Lane. In general, the principle of the development could potentially be supported insofar as less than 10% of the street has been converted. However, the overall housing mix is skewed towards a specific housing choice with no family units provision. This would represent reason 1. As demonstrated by the elevation drawings, the overall design, massing and scale is excessive. We have an objection from our conservation officer, and this scheme fails to preserve the character and appearance of the conservation area, and that's a second reason for refusal. The depth height of the development would also lead to a sensitive enclosure to adjoining residents at numbers 88 and 92, as well as potential for reduction in light in the absence of a full daylight sunlight assessment. And given the sensitive enclosure to the neighbouring windows, it would therefore have an adverse impact on their amenity. The removal of trees to the front of the site has not been fully justified. These trees contribute positively to the conservation area, and the tree officer and conservation area both object to their removal. Highways have also raised an objection given the proposal would fail to provide acceptable pedestrian and vehicular access, and moreover the proposal fails to demonstrate how it would achieve high standards of fire safety and emergency evacuation arrangements. In the absence of detailed fire statement and a comprehensive plan demonstrating high standards, it's refused on fire safety grounds. As such, officers recommend refusal as set out in section 2 of the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Owen. Okay, Dr. Mahmood, would you like to come to the table? I've allowed this drawing, this photograph to be to all councillors, which is this one. He was late, but it is only one photo, so I don't think it's that much of a inconvenience for us as a committee. Councillor Mahmood, Dr. Mahmood, sorry. Do you want me to explain the system, or are you quite happy? You're fine? Okay, whenever you press the red button, off we go.
My name is Dr. Mahmood, as you know, and I'm resident of 92 Long Lane, and I've come here to request a refusal for the application. It is far too overwhelming and has a great impact on the privacy and quiet of my property. Now, previous case, there were discussions about a precedent being set up, and this is exactly what has happened here. They are repeatedly sort of pointing to 88 Long Lane. The comparison is not made, however, with the fact that there was also refusal for the 88, 90, 92 and 94 Long Lane, which were to be converted into a residential home. And at that time, the council said that this was not in keeping with the character of the area and was too big. 88 Long Lane has no residential property on its right side, whereas we do. 90 Long Lane has us at 92 Long Lane. On both sides there are residents. The application does not describe the effect that this proposed construction would have on 92 Long Lane at all. There's also to be remembered that 90A Long Lane is another area which is part of 92 Long Lane, and this area has got a lot of trees, and that belongs to me, the 90A, and there's been no mention of how that would be affected. The ecological report submitted by the applicant regarding the trees addresses effects to the trees at 90 Long Lane, which is understandable, but does not reflect in any detail the effect it is going to have on trees in 92 Long Lane. There are a number of trees in 92 Long Lane, the roots of which extend into the gardens of 90 Long Lane. Huge amount of concrete construction, the height being much higher than the current bungalow. It is not in keeping with the character of the area and is a complete change from how the village was meant to be seen in the future. Windows made on the side facing 92 Long Lane will directly oversee 92 Long Lane. There is a door as the main entrance to one of the flats on the side facing 92 Long Lane. Movements in this flat will directly have a noise pollution for 92 Long Lane. Although 45-degree angles might be preserved for the light, but there is no doubt that such a big property will also indirectly change the light, scenery and aerodynamics of 92 Long Lane. This is a conservation area, and the view has always been that there should be less construction and buildings in conservation areas. There are multiple balconies suggested with windows and patios at the back which directly oversee the garden at 92 Long Lane. When we bought this property at 92 Long Lane many years ago, the purpose was to be able to enjoy the characteristics and privacy of this property, and it is an isolated plot with a big garden. This obviously impedes it. The cycle stand proposed at the rear for 18 cycles clearly will establish a large number of residents moving in and out of the area. This will directly affect the quiet and peace of 92 Long Lane. There will be at least 30 people living in these flats with perhaps 9 to 10 cars. There will be far too heavy a load in this small area and will lead to unbalanced congestion. I have submitted one photograph which shows you the condition today with the cars on the outside. So you can well imagine without the construction this is the situation and what would happen if there was as many as 9 flats built there. The proposal of cutting 4 trees from the front with additional 2 dead trees and replacing them with new trees is clearly unequal replacement of conservation area. It has been proposed by the tree surveyor's report that some of the trees do not have a bearing on the outside of 90 Long Lane, but your photograph that I have submitted will also confirm to you that it has a big bearing. These trees have a bearing, and the council has also agreed with that. There's no doubt that some of the roots will be still damaged in the conservation area. In particular, the damage you can actually see that when 88 Long Lane was constructed, there have been damages to the trees, and I have previously submitted a photograph for that. So in conclusion, I request that there is a refusal. There's evidence linking increased number of residents to a higher level of noise pollution, coming from studies in urban environment. Factors such as people using common areas, increased foot traffic, and more social gathering can contribute to higher noise levels. Psychological studies have also suggested that as the number of people in a space increases, so does the likelihood of louder conversations and activities further increase noise pollution. Noise overshadowing, loss of privacy, and visual impact should be taken into consideration, and their impact on the neighbouring properties be considered. With regards to the value of the properties being adversely affected in the area may not be a consideration for council planning department, but could force the residents to seek civil remedies like nuisance claims. Private nuisance as well as public nuisance are both acceptable here, as there is loss of use and enjoyment of properties at 92 Long Lane and the other neighbourhood. That's my offer.
Your time. Thank you. Thank you. Questions from the councillors. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for speaking as a petitioner. I just wanted to ask about the photographs. So could you just re-explain what it is we're looking at here? What property and what...
This is number 90 Long Lane, which is being proposed to be extended. As it is today, you can see that there is so much congestion with the cars on the outside, and if there were and at the moment there is only 1 or 2 residents there, and if there was 9 flats, what would be the situation on the roads? Also, the photograph is indicating the tree about which it is being said by the tree survey report that there would be no impact on the characteristics, but you can clearly see how important these trees are, and they're visible from outside, and they have a bearing on the character of the area.
Thank you. I suppose given we have photo evidence, we should take offline just as in terms of an ASB matter, in terms of vehicles parking on the
Yes,
the
definitely.
pavement and the grass verges.
Obviously,
Thank you.
we have to inform the councillors to do that. Thank you, Dr. Mahmood. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your speech. Anybody else got any questions for Dr. Mahmood? No? You may take a seat. Can you turn the microphone off for me, sir? Thank you. Right. Alan, can we, Dr. Tilley, can we have a sort of, this is Long Lane is a very busy road, as we know. Are we happy with the refusal reasons? Have we got any refusal reasons on traffic, or are you quite happy? Can you expand for committee, please?
Thank you, Chairman. There are two aspects of this development that the Highway Authority has concerns about. The first is the position of the gates that provide access to the property. We would require those to be set sufficiently far back to be able to hold one car clear of the backup highway. And you can see from the photograph provided, if there were 3 cars, clearly they are parked on the highway. And the second highway's cause for concern is the pedestrian and cycle access. It's 0.9 metres wide, which is not wide enough for somebody to wheel a bicycle through. And so they would alternatively use the gates, mixing themselves with motor vehicles. So those are the two highway objections to this proposal, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alan. I just wanted to, obviously you mentioned it, I thought we'd just better clear that up. So, who's Councillor Chandel, Councillor Cawthorne?
Thank you, Chairman. I mean, I'm just looking for any more reasons to put refusal reasons in. This is an application from a developer who just doesn't want to put as much as possible in as minimal amount of space. I don't care about policy. It's contrary to policy. There's not enough information, or there's no information supporting the application. I don't think we should waste too much time on this. And I formally move that we go with Bill Officer's recommendation of refusal.
Thank you, Councillor Chandel. Councillor Cawthorne?
Yeah, I second the offer of recommendation. I absolutely agree with the report and recommendations. I don't think we need to spend too long on this.
Okay, so I'm proposing to Councillor Mann. You want to
Thank you, Chairman. I concur with the Councillor's comments. I do have one question, though. I'm looking at the report, and it says, in the absence of any family-sized flats, 3 beds or more. Just wanted to, for my own information, is there any rule book stating how many 3-bed houses and 2-bed houses mixture needs? So can they just add one more in, submit a subsequent application?
Yeah, I think if it was just the case that was we were refusing just on that basis, I wouldn't have said no. But the London Borough Hillingdon, we need more 3-bedroom units, and that's one of our requirements that we require. That's why it's been raised in the report. Yeah.
And number 88, is that at the moment all 2 beds as well?
I'm not sure about 88. I'm getting a nod of yes, is it?
Yeah, 88 is 2 beds.
But it's smaller.
Yeah.
It is smaller than this development.
Predates the current plan as well.
That was 2016, wasn't
it?
Yeah. Okay. Does that help? Good. Okay, we're proposing second. I'll show hands always in favour with officer's recommendation for refusal. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. That's the petition items dealt with. We will now go on to the main agenda. Thank you very much, Doctor. So, we've got number 9, which is Meadow High School.
Thank you, Chair. Item 9 relates to Meadow High School, which is a special needs school located on the west of Roy Lane. The site measures 2 hectares in area and is currently being redeveloped to provide a new 2-storey academic building on the northern section of the site, which is highlighted here in the hatched. So the proposal seeks a temporary classroom which will be located in this area here. The site is bounded by residential properties to the north, east and south. The closest residential properties to the application site are along Beacons Close, and that bends on to Peel's Way. So the next image shows a bird's eye view of the site. So if you can see here, it's going to be located in here. And this is the existing ground floor plan, existing elevations, and the proposed site plan, proposed ground floor plan. Now, as you can see, it also has a ramp here to serve the additional students. It'll be 10 students per class, and it will be a temporary consent for 24 months. So again, you see the infill section there where it shows the temporary building. And this will be a planned layout of the design which will be in place. And following the removal of the classroom, it would also reinstate a bit of tree planting, which was previously required under a previous application. So in summary, the proposal is for the installation of a single story temporary classroom for a period of 24 months. Is required until the new facility at Harefield Academy site is completed, which is anticipated in 2025. The application is needed to support uninterrupted provision of special needs kids places within the borough. On the basis of this, temporary permission is granted subject to conditions, and the application is recommended for approval.
Thank you, Owen. Can we just for clarity about Harefield Academy, because obviously Harefield Academy, we only passed that application I think a couple of months ago, so it's not even been built.
Yeah.
So the coalition to say that it's needed because Harefield Academy, like it's existing, but that's not the case. They're saying that they're at the high end of occupancy, that's why they need it.
Yeah.
Till Harefield Academy comes into place, is that correct?
Yeah, basically the places that will be, the school will facilitate people that are already in the school. So it's required for the additional 10 places, and I suppose in terms of paragraph 99 of the MPPF, there is an importance to put sufficient choice of school places available to meet the needs of existing and new communities. So, you know, there is a need for them, and that's why it's...
I just wanted to clear up that point, that it wasn't because Harefield Academy is not ready, it's because it's an additional spaces they need at the moment, and if in future they will be given over to the other school, correct?
Yes, so basically once the new school is completed, that will create 90 places.
And then this temporary building will be...
will be removed, yeah.
Okay, fine. Councillor Chandel, Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Chairman. A couple of things. First of all, this is not usually, it says here on our tag sheet here, that's actually Coleman Cowley, which I'm rather familiar with, being the ward councillor. So can we correct that, first of all? Secondly, that drawing that that picture you've put up there, I think is rather apt, because I'm a bit concerned with that fence itself. For the last 6-7 years, we've had that green netting, which you show there, which looks rather great at the moment, in a poor state of repair for, like I said, for the last 5 or 6 years, bits falling off and all sorts. And there, I know that the residents have been in consultation with the head, with not much luck, and the resident confidence at the moment is not very great, because the policing of vehicle movements currently, it's a weekly thing that I get in my post box. So I would like to see that fencing to be some different type of fencing there, because if that's a school and there's school kids there, I don't think so. You should be looking at school kids going in and out of their classrooms, and that's a rather large stretch as well from there. It's right at the bottom of Peel Way, and if you go down the road there, I would like to see some sort of something that blocks out the view completely. And as you mentioned, some trees as well there. It wasn't quite clear on the drawings, because you've got trees on this side, you've got trees on the other side of the fence as well. And there's trees on the other side of the fence. I think if you go there now, you can have a look at them. They're in a very poor state. They're not being managed well at all. And this is a key point for both the residents there in terms of confidence of getting things done and policed and done properly. If you could give me some information on that, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chinjar. I was just picking up on that because I remember passing the previous application, and there's meant to be a landscaping condition, so officers can pick that up outside. Okay. On the fencing, Katie, you wanted to say something on this. It's in the report, but.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, in terms of the fencing, what's being proposed is a wooden screening, so it will replace it. So it's considered a betterment.
Right. Councillor Bennett, and then Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Chair. So, I was with you, remember, approving Meadow High School. I think it holds the record for probably the longest time. It was about 2 hours. I remember commenting that we spent less time on the hospital than we did on this school. And the reason we did was because of its proximity to the residents around and the disruption that it may cause. I suppose my question is just for my own peace of mind, where are we at with the rebuild on the school now? Because that was quite a sizable application that residents were very concerned about. And then, now we're putting more construction in that area. Just if both are going to overlap, are we satisfied that the impact on the local road network is not excessive?
Okay. I chaired both of those as well. So. Go on. Katie, do you want to come up on that one?
Just in terms of the impact on the road, so they've submitted a construction logistics plan which takes into account the construction on the main part of the site as well. So I think in terms of this proposal itself, it's an additional 2 vehicles, so it's not going to be a more significant impact. But the construction logistics plan is being reviewed by our highways officer who's happy with the additional impact.
Okay, I think Councillor Bennett's trying to get to as well is that we had a long debate about this because the roads are very narrow around it. Can we just make sure that we take into account what we did before as well as what it is new? That's all, Katie, they can make a note of that. Anything else, Councillor Bennett?
Just one more thing, and I think I've asked this question before on a temporary school building. A temporary period of 24 months allows for sufficient time for the buildings to be installed on site, and then it goes. Is there any way we can firm up that this is just a 24-month building and not a 24-year building?
I've been doing this a long time. Really, we can't. Is the base, the short of it. But what they have to do, which I can give you reassurance, is that after 24 months, and which will probably happen, I don't know if we're building the school or someone else is building. Hensley's building the other school. They will come back and ask us for another year or so. Right.
So it has to come back to you.
It has to come back to committee.
Okay.
So you're quite safe there. Okay. Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with my colleague, Mr. Chairman, Councillor Chimdale and Bennett. If the officers are there, make sure for the fence and the 24-month contract, and I'm quite happy to propose the officers.
Fantastic. So, Councillor Singh, can I have someone to second, please? Councillor Cawthorne. You have to say that you're seconding.
I beg your pardon. Duly seconded, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. So I'm proposed and seconded. Those in favour of officer recommendation, show hands. That's unanimous. Okay. Last item of the evening is number 10, the former garage site of rear of Sullivan Crescent.
Thank you, Chairman. I too was present for the determination of both of those applications as the presenting officer, so it was a long evening. So item 10 relates to the former garage site, rear of Sullivan Crescent in Harefield. Members of this committee may record a formal planning application on the site which was granted consent for the erection of 4 times 2-storey terrace houses and 2 times 2-storey semi-detached houses with associated car parking and landscaping on the 9th of March 2023. This application seeks to vary the approved plans condition by replacing the plans associated to Plot 5 only in order to alter the footprint of the building and to comply with the M43 accessible standards. Here is a site location plan. The site is marked in red. Here we have another site location plan with the site marked in pink. As you'll see from the constraints plan, the site is abutted by the green belt, which is to the south and the east. Here is a proposed site plan. You will note that plot 5 is one part of the semi-detached properties. Here is plot 5 with plot 6 directly adjacent. Here is the proposed floor plans. Plot 5 is shown within the red bubble. The proposal involves a minor front extension at both ground and first floor level, which amounts to a 20.3 square metre extension. Here we have the proposed elevations. This shows there is a very minor and negligible increase in the roof height of approximately 35 centimetres in order to ensure the elevations remain balanced and accommodate the modest front extension. And here we have an aerial image of the site. In terms of the assessment of the proposal, the principle of development, its design and impact upon the character and appearance of the area, neighbour amenity and the local highway network were agreed to be acceptable by planning committee when agreeing the officer's recommendation to approve the full application on the 9th of March 2023. Whilst the proposal seeks to extend the dwelling, which will occupy plot 5, the extension is modest in scale and would not result in additional harm. Furthermore, the proposal would facilitate the construction of a dwelling which would comply with the highest accessible standards whilst retaining this 4-bedroom family-size unit. In summary, the changes to the scheme are considered to be minor and the improvements to the accessible standards of the dwelling is considered to be a benefit. It is for these reasons that the application and minor material amendment are recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so basically we approved this. I think you were there as well, Councillor Bennett. So we need to take away Councillor Chandel. Yeah, no, I'll just...
Well, it's a minor amendment. One just wonders why they don't think of these in the first place when the original application comes across. Or is it, will we say, oh, it's only 35 centimetres in height and another X amount of metres? It's minor. I'll go for officer's recommendation.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's better. Councillor Bennett.
I am happy to second the approval.
Thank you very much. So it's proposed and seconded. Can I show hands? All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Fantastic. Everybody's done brilliant tonight. And I think we are going to turn off now, aren't we? Cheerio, everybody.